Hello guys, and you're welcome. In this lesson, we're going to talk and learn how we can interact between scripts. Basically, if we have variables between two scripts in Unity, we'll learn how we can actually communicate between them. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to talk about monobehavior. Now, monobehavior is the base class from which every Unity script derives. We've been creating scripts throughout the course, and each time you use C#, you have to explicitly derive from monobehavior. So monobehavior has the start update, fixed update, awake, and a lot of functions. But what does it mean to inherit? It's a part of the object-oriented programming in C#. In fact, let's just go ahead and begin. So the first way we're going to learn to interact between two different scripts is through inheritance. So let's go ahead and create a new scene. Let's just create a new scene. Let's go to File, Save Scene. So I'll just go to my Scenes folder, and I'll just call that Inheritance. So I just called it Inheritance Script Communication because we're going to learn how to communicate between two scripts. Like so. So what I would like to do is to quickly create two C# scripts. I'll call them first script and second script. So I'll just get right here and just right here in our scripts folder. And in case you're seeing it this way, you can change it to the two-column layout. And I'll just go to Assets, Scripts, and I'll just quickly create two scripts like so. So I'll right click and then I'll create a C# script. I'll call it first. Like that, and I'll quickly open it up using Visual Studio. So now we have our script called first. Let's quickly create our second script, and let's just jump into our assets. We have our scripts where we have our scripts, and let's just go ahead and right click and go to create, and let's create a second script. So let's say second, like so. So we have that second script right here. And we should also open up our second script so we can actually see that. And I'll just reload everything and set my So nice. So we have a first script and a second script. So basically what we want to do is to get data from, say, this first script to the second script. Now notice we're inheriting or extending from a script called monobehavior, and it's a base class in Unity. And each time you create a C# script in Unity, you have to inherit from monobehavior. But this time around, let's go ahead and inherit from the second script. So let's just go ahead right here and let's just call this second. So it means our first script is going to be inheriting the properties that we have in the second script. So let's go ahead and write some basic code for our second script. So right here in our second script, we're not going to be using the monobehaviors update and start methods. So let's get rid of them and let's create our own method. So let's create a void second method like so. And right here, let's go ahead and just print a simple statement right here. So we can actually use print, and we can also use debug.log. That also works. Let's just say hello from the second script. And basically this is what our method is going to do. To be able to have access to any class or any script within Unity, we have to change the access modifier of our scripts. And here's what I mean. So we have a function called second method. Let's just go ahead and save that. Since the first script right here is inheriting from the second script, we could just jump into our first script and just call that function directly. So let's jump to our first script and call the method called second method in our first script. So right here in start, I'm just going to say second. And I'm actually not seeing that method right here. The reason why we're not seeing it is because we have to change our access modifier to public. When we use a access modifier with the keyword public, it means our method called second method is going to be available in any other script, even scripts we have not created yet. So, but right now, if we make this public, it means this method should be accessible within our first script. So let's jump back to our first script and let's just type second and lo and behold, we can see our second method like so. So let's just go ahead and say calling the method from our inherited second script like so. So I'll just go ahead and save that, and let's jump back to Unity and kind of run our scene like so. And let's not forget to let's just go ahead and run this. So I'll just open my console, and let's clear our console, and let's run that one more time. And what we also need to do is to assign our script to a game object. So let's go ahead and pick up our first script we called first, and let's just drag that and assign that to our main camera. So our main camera has our first script, and let's just go ahead and run our scene. So here we can actually see the output, and it says hello from the second script. So that's how we can use inheritance to communicate between a script. But this time around, this is just not C#, this is Unity. And Unity has scripts and game objects. So let's go ahead and learn how we can communicate between two game objects. So what I'm going to do right now is to actually, let's get rid of this. So I'll just remove this component from my main camera, and I'll just quickly go ahead and create two empty game objects. So I'll create a 3D object. I'll just go to 3D object, I'll create a cube, and I'll just call this cube first like so. And I'll also go to game object, 3D object, and I'll create a sphere, and I'll call this second. And what I'm also going to do is to go to my project view, and right here within my scripts, I'm going to create a, let's go ahead and just use the same script, since we have a script called first, or let's create different ones. So I'll go to create C# script, and I'll call this first underscore script, just to differentiate it from the first script we created. So now I'll drag first underscore script to our first game object like so. And then for our next, let's go ahead and create another script called second script. So let's go ahead and create a C# script, and let's call that second underscore script like so. And let's drag that second script on our second game object like so. So now we have our first script attached to our first game object. Let's just drag that by the side, and we have our second script attached to our sphere game object, and we actually call this the first and the second. So let's go ahead and see how we can communicate through with C# using our game objects with this script. So let's go ahead and jump in. So for our first, let's just go ahead and open that. So I'll go to edit script, and I'll go ahead and do the same with my second script. I'll just right click on the three dots and go to edit script. So now we have our first script and our second script. So let's go ahead and create some variables right here and game objects and see how we can communicate between these two. So right now in my second script, I'll just go ahead and clear this out to have this empty script, because I won't be using the start or update mono behavior methods. So the first thing I'll do is to create a public method called say hello. So I'll just do a public, and I'll just call that say hello. Like that. And it should have a return type. So I'll just say void. So we have a public void say hello method, and simply what it does is just to say let's just go ahead and print out, or this time let's just use debug.log, but print is totally fine, it'll also work. And right here let's just say hello from the second script. And also right here, let's go ahead and just create a public variable called max ammo. Let's just do a public int max underscore ammo, and let's just set this to a value of say 40. So now that we have this in our first script and we've made this a public method like so, it means we can have access to this throughout Unity. So our first script, let's go ahead and jump to our first script right now and be using the information we have from our second script. Now, since we know that this second script is attached to this game object called second, if we want to have access to this game object, we need to create a public game object right here in our first script. So right here at the top, I'll just do a public game object like so, and I'll call this second because this game object is going to have access to our second script. So right now, I'll just quickly jump to Unity, and right here for my first script, let's go ahead and click on our first script, and if we click the drop down, it's looking for a game object. So let's go ahead and drag the second script that has the first script attached to it like so, because our second script has the script called second script, which has the code we want to access, which is this one right here. So we created a public game object called second to hold a reference to that. So what we need to do right now is to create a field to hold a reference to the first script. So we'll call the name of our script called second script. So let's just go ahead like so and say second script, which is a class. Unity sees this as a class, and let's just go ahead and create a field. So I'll just call that my underscore second underscore script like so. So now that we've done this, what we're going to do is to actually get the component called second script that is attached to this game object. So to do that, I'll just jump here and say my second script is going to be equal to our script right here called second, this one right here, the game object. So we want to get the script that is attached on that second game object. So we're going to say second dot get component like so, and the component we want to get is the second script like so. So now that we've actually gotten this second script component in our start method, let's go ahead and use this. Now let's go ahead and use an awake method. An awake method is a mono behavior method that is called before start. So let's use the awake to initialize our game object, and then let's go ahead to get our script, and let's do our void start to actually run our code like so. So right now in our start method, let's use the hello method from the second script. So now that I have done this, I've actually gotten the component to use the method called, say hello. So let's go ahead and call this. So let's say my second script dot. So let's just look for say hello, and we can actually see we're having access to say hello like so. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's head back to Unity, and let's go ahead and play our scene. And we're getting the hello from the second script. So if we go ahead and look at our second script, here we have max ammo. Okay, this is ammo. I'll just change this to ammo and get rid of that N and quickly save that. So let's see how we can have access to a variable in our second script within the first script. So right here within my start method, I can go ahead and do something like, let's just say my second script. So we'll just use a dot, and we have that max ammo property right here, variable. And what we're going to do is to simply print that information. To make this much more interesting, we can simply just do a print like so. So we can print this information and this will be totally fine. But to make this more readable, let's just go ahead and create a text within a string and just say max ammo is, and then let's just concatenate that value for our max ammo. Let's go ahead and save that, jump back to Unity, And let's go ahead and let's clear our scene, our console, and just play this. So we can see our max ammo is 40 and we're getting hello from the second script. So basically we actually have information on our second script. We have our public max ammo and we have a method called say hello. We could actually call that public variable when we have access to our second script. So basically, as a quick wrap up of what we've done is that we actually have two game objects within our scene, and we have a first game object and a second game object, and we wanted to have access to the second script from the first game object. So what we did was to create a public game object, because that game object called second has the script attached to it. So once we've had that script attached to it, what we actually went ahead and did was to create a reference to hold a reference to our second script. So we created that reference by creating the name of the class, which is second script, and we call that my second script. Next, we went ahead and got our component on the second script, and then what we want to do is now call the methods or properties that are attached to our second script, which is like so. So that's the neat way you can actually have access to properties, methods, or variables that exist within another script within Unity. This is important, especially when you're designing games. You might want to separate the player controller from the character controller, and also you might want to separate the player upgrade from the player death. So once it's on also the animation, once you have these separated, you can interact between each component separately, just to have a way of organizing your code and to have using the advantage of object-oriented programming. I hope this helps, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.